this is Morgan Coffin, and you're listening to Coffin Time. Today we'll be reading an excerpt from the ongoing series Tumbleweed. This is Everything Went Numb, Part 3. The motor hums. Cool wind whirls through Harry's hair. His foot swings wildly as it searches for something to grab onto. Finally, it finds a small ledge where he can settle in, ready for the next handhold. He reaches out as far as he can towards the metal bar above him, but he can't quite touch. He snorts out a little tut before leaping in an attempt to snatch it. His fingers miss. His face slaps against the cool green steel and slides down as he begins to fall. He shoots his legs out in either direction, hoping for something to catch him. The wheelbase bellows out like a drum on one side while Harry's left sneaker scrapes against the jagged stepladder. His arms spread, eagle-like, against the giant steel wall as he hugs it for dear life. The collar of his shirt then rings up and around his neck, and he's suddenly airborne and gaining altitude. "Quit messing around," his father says, grunting around a lip of tobacco. "This ain't no game. Just take the dang steps like you're supposed to." He plops Harry into the seat of the tractor and climbs up in just 2 steps before picking him back up again and placing him in his lap. Harry huffs and resigns to looking around. Immediately he's forgotten about the stolen summit as he's swept away by the view. It's what he came up here to see, after all. Harry gazes out at the gold that stretches so far that it doesn't stop until it touches the sky. It's engraved with wavy, parallel lines that all point to the same spot under a puffy white cloud. Off to the side stands a silver weather vane. It looks like it's made up of hundreds of cut-up cola cans with its red and white stripes.
Wow.
Sun's bright. Gonna be a hot day. His father squints out to the east. Harry looks too. Pure golden light burns holes in the back of Harry's head as he smashes his eyebrows down to his cheekbones and slaps his palms over them. Yup. Gonna be a hot day. His dad shifts the tractor into first and lets off the pedal. Harry falls back into his dad's chest as the whole thing lurches forward and bounces all over the freshly turned dirt. The wheel spins around and around in his dad's calloused hands until it finally catches. He holds it there for a bit, then straightens it back out once they're headed south and shifts it into second towards the big red barn. With each bump and wobble, Harry's getting tossed around. He hears barking and spots a big black German shepherd running towards him from the back of their small white farmhouse. Harry had named her Ruth because he'd always wanted to meet his grandma. Ruth barks as she runs alongside the tractor. A big bump sends Harry off to the side, and with nothing else to grab onto, he grabs the wheel. His dad promptly smacks his hand away as the tractor goes over a big rock. Harry is launched to the side and he careens down towards the West Texas dirt. Ruth barks. Harry screams. His dad sighs. The motor hums. Harry bounces all around in the darkness as the whole room shakes. The ringing in his ears made a comfortable home in the rattling drone of the engine. The floor is wet. Harry is blind. It smells like corroded pennies. He tries to reach out ahead of him only to hear a muted ching and remember that his hands are cuffed behind his back. He kicks instead. The deafening thud is unmistakable. He wonders if it's Jack lying next to him or if it's Jill. The last time he saw him, Jill's brains were spread out across the ceiling and wall above the ruby display in an inner-city jewelry store. Jack's a different story. She was shot in the back while wearing a Kevlar vest, so there's a good chance that she's still alive. Though the jury's still out on whether or not that would be her good luck. Harry whispers. There's no answer. He figures he wasn't loud enough, so he puts a little bit more diaphragm into it. Check! Nothing. Whoever it is lying next to him, they're dead asleep, or fucking dead. Harry swivels his head around, trying to see out of the burlap sack on top of it.
God, it was hard enough to see out of that stupid mask.
What a stupid thing to think about when you're being driven out to the docks for a late-night execution.
Is that what gangsters do?
He's only ever seen gangsters in movies. Is that what Tony Lazzaro does? What does he know?
Are there even any docks around here?
He lifts his leg to kick up, but just knees the ceiling.
Am I in a trunk? Shit, fuck, god damn it.
He can feel tears welling up in the back of his eyes. He keeps them there. Then the greatest inconvenience of all comes to wash them away. His leg itches. From right in front of the trochanter on his right thigh grows a pinpoint itch like a bug bite on crack. He twists and contorts as the itch grows into the bone. It begins to sting, and that turns into a pointed agony that nearly makes Harry scream. He pulls his left arm around his back and stretches his right index finger as far as it can go. Closer and closer, he nears it by the millimeter. He can feel the muscles in his left arm begin to tear as he stretches around the bulky Kevlar vest. His fingernail ticks something metal and then his fingertip feels it. A thin steel ring. He snatches it and yanks it out of his thigh. Blood oozes out from the hole and over his thigh before pooling in his crotch. He gets his arms back behind him and feels the object, turning it over in his hands. It's definitely a metal ring, but part of it bends out to make a needle point. If this is what Harry thinks it is, he's the luckiest bastard on Earth. A fucking grenade pin. He grips tight to the pin and spins it around in his fingers as the trunk bounces up and down. Once he's got the pointy end facing his palm, he starts to poke at the right cuff, trying to find the keyhole. The grima from the jagged metal tip scraping against the worn steel is unbearable. He decides there's nothing on that side, so he tries for the left one, praying to the god he just started believing in that the keyhole isn't on the outside of both of the cuffs. The ring point slips and catches in something. He immediately begins to rattle it around.
Does it work that way?
He wouldn't know. If it doesn't, he's never gonna have a chance when that door above him opens up. He shoves the thing in harder, and just as he does, the car hits a speed bump and launches him into the ceiling. He falls down on Jack. Is it Jack? The car hits another bump and Jack ends up on top of him. Warm liquid pours out onto his face and chest. He can feel it pool in his clavicle and he chokes down a heave of vomit. Harry shoves the body away with both hands, and before he has a chance to realize that they're free, a deafening boom takes over the senses. Metal crinkles and screeches as Harry finds himself floating. Tires squeal and somebody screams. A tiny beam of light pierces into the trunk door and slashes through the dark, illuminating the bag over Harry's head and making it glimmer a mystical liquid red. He hits the roof and comes down nose first in the back of the bloody broken skull.